Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Awesome Build. And as you may have noticed, this episode was actually supposed to go up last week, and I do apologize for that. I had some computer issues, so that's what kind of tied things up a little bit. But this is part 3 of how to build a Spaceship Corridor, and we're just going to go right into the footage to see what we got. All right, so here it is. There are a few things I would probably still add. It's probably about 98% complete. There's a few things missing here and there that would really kind of touch it up. Closing this gap up here, maybe by adding some piping or even some more diffusion or something like that to kind of add some more light. I would urge you guys even to go heavier on the detail. There's a lot of elements on the styrofoam and stuff like that where you could add even more details using little bits of plastic pieces and stuff like that you have lying around and little pieces of wire, and even adding more lights. Add, you know, some more cheap dollar store lights to different elements and stuff like that. Put some lights behind stuff to kind of illuminate things from behind, which kind of gives it a cool look. So for various parts like the styrofoam, a lot of these already had openings in them, so I wanted to put lights behind it to kind of bring it out a little bit more, give the whole thing a little bit more life. So just by adding a light, actually this has a magnet already built into it, so that's kind of a nice feature. So I can just snap on there and cover it up. Now you have a piece that's actually doing something. All right, now for some of the pieces that are just styrofoam, they have an interesting shape, but they're also usually pretty recognizable as just being painted styrofoam, unless you add little elements to it. And again, I would go even further than this, but just adding a little piece of cardboard with some little interesting shapes and some different colors added to it. It kind of takes your mind a little bit more away from the fact that it's just a piece of styrofoam, and now it looks like something that's doing something. And again, if you add a cheap dollar store light, even better. So once again, all of these things are very modular. You can rearrange stuff as you need. Like I said, with the lighter pieces, I used magnets and with the styrofoam. And for these heavier pieces, where it's just attached to a piece of MDF board, or even like a piece of cardboard, but it's heavier because you're adding a lot of different plastic elements and stuff, I put these picture hanger piece on there. So it's just a bracket. They're pretty cheap. I think they're probably about $5 or $6 at a hardware store. You might even be able to find them cheaper. But then you just add the bracket to a bunch of different pieces, and then you can rearrange how you want it to look. So you could take this piece down, add another piece, so on and so forth. And it takes no time to set back up. Then as you can see, I ran some LEDs for the floor, and again, you can totally change things up. How much you guys choose to put into it is purely up to you. The more you put into it, the better it's going to look, obviously. You don't need a lot of money to build something that looks impressive. You just need some time and a little creativity, and it can go a long way. Because all of this stuff is just junk. You know, it's a couple of Gatorade bottles glued together with some hose attached to it. It's, like I said, egg cartons and old broken toys and discarded yogurt cups. But this gives you an idea of how you can build a relatively cheap Spaceship Corridor. So you guys shouldn't feel restricted by what kind of money or what kind of a budget you have, or if you don't have any budget. In order to build this corridor, it was about $100. Most of the money went into building the actual structure and just the lumber, and even that wasn't very expensive. Other things that I just had lying around, I added those elements to, and those are things that maybe you won't have. I took bits and pieces of other projects and added stuff, but for the most part, all of the elements that I used to dress up the interior of it were just pieces of junk. They were just things that you would normally throw away, the styrofoam, all of the plastic elements, the cups and the different containers and stuff. All those little bits and pieces of plastic or wiring that I use to kind of dress it up are just things that I save for projects like this. Or if you want to build a project like this and you don't necessarily have any time restraint, you have plenty of time to gather up some of this stuff. Like I said, it was probably about 3 or 4 months of me saving up those plastic containers and stuff like that, and I still have bins full that I can use for other stuff. So this is just a small fraction of the stuff that I actually have that I've been saving up to use, mostly because this is just a small part of a much larger piece that I'm going to be working on. Now, how you choose to light your corridor is totally up to you and depends on the project. If you want it to look much brighter, you absolutely can. You can add more lights. Now, as you guys may have noticed, I took out my panels that I originally had here and I added one long, thinner panel so that I could add my windows. Like these window pieces are just cardboard with the window cut out and some plastic on there to act as a diffuser. Now you could just as easily do that on the bottom instead and have those panel pieces up here and have your lights on the bottom and kind of light your subject from underneath, which I think would actually be pretty cool and probably give a very dramatic look for whatever your subject is inside your corridor. You can also just, because the ceiling is removable, you could take the ceiling out or cut panels for the ceiling and light it from the ceiling. If you wanted to, you could even run LEDs underneath your floor and light some of your elements from underneath, which would look really cool and give it sort of a sense that you're maybe just on one deck and that there's another deck below you. By being able to remove the ceiling or remove a wall, it gives you the flexibility to use your camera angles a lot more. You can shoot stuff from a little bit further, but you can get some wider shots from the side if you wanted to. You can shoot your subject from overhead. It'll be a lot easier if you're shooting more than one subject in the corridor, like 2 people having a conversation. If you're removing one wall, then you have that opportunity to shoot the 2 people side by side. Rather than having to use like really intense close-ups or over-the-shoulder shots, you can go for a little bit wider shot and capture them both against one wall. Or as I said, you can get some really cool dramatic overhead shots. You can bring the dolly in and get some really cool fluid, smooth shots and stuff like that. Yeah. You can get some kind of neat dramatic shots of, just the feet walking on the corridor. So if you wanted to, you could expand on your existing corridor or build a facade or a wall or something like behind it or a door. Or by putting a green screen back there, you could duplicate it in After Effects or even build a Photoshop version of the rest of your corridor or a door that you can animate or something like that. All of those things kind of depend on your budget and your skill level. So we are going to be using this set piece for a variety of different projects we have coming up, including Nostalgia Critic episodes. And as I said, I'm going to be using it for a project that I'm going to be working on in the future, and I will keep you guys a little bit more updated on that as it gets a little bit closer and a little bit further along. So this will probably be a piece that we revisit a little bit in the future. But I hope that you guys have enjoyed the build so far, and I hope it inspires you guys to go out and build some stuff of your own. Once again, thanks so much for watching and supporting the show. Don't forget to share it and tell your friends. And you can look me up on Facebook at James Jim J. Ross. And once again, guys, thanks so much. You guys are awesome. I'll see you next time.